Chris Philp, can you confirm that you've been invited to talk to the Health Secretary as part of a process to reach consensus on social care?
Well, I understand they've made an initial preliminary approach to discuss how parties might work together. And in the national interest, we will, of course, engage constructively with that process. But it's very disappointing that after so many years in opposition, Labour, who promised us they had a plan, it turns out they have no plan at all. It's also very disappointing that they, despite before the election promising they would implement the £86,000 cap that we had planned to introduce and had funded in October of this year, they're now saying that is going to be scrapped. So I think the public, once again, will feel very let down by Labour and will feel misled by Labour before the election.
Well, it's worth saying, you won't have seen this, but the Health Secretary's told me this morning that it's possible that cap may come back in if recommended by Louise Casey. So you'd be happy to see that, wouldn't you?
Well, absolutely. It was our policy. But West Streeting, I think about 2 weeks before the election, said that it would be introduced in October of this year, October 2025. Rachel Reeves, just a few weeks after that, after the election, then said it was cancelled. So he appears to be disagreeing with his own Chancellor. The current government position, the current Labour government position, is they're going to scrap it, even though they promised a couple of weeks before the election that they would implement it as we had planned. And that would save families with, loved ones in social care, many, many tens of thousands of pounds. So people up and down the country are going to be very disappointed that, once again, Labour essentially lied to them before the election.
All right. Well, you'll have many opportunities to discuss that with them. Let's talk about your party. Chris, we're always glad to see you on the show.
Glad to be here, Trevor.
But may I ask, while you're here, we haven't seen your leader once. Does she only do interviews with media that she thinks are politically sympathetic?
No, I don't think that's true, and I'm very glad to be here, Trevor. But I'm sorry if my presence brings you any disappointment this new year. But look, Kemi, I'm only teasing. Look, Kemi does huge amounts of media and interviews. She was doing.
She hasn't been on Sky once.
She was doing interviews before Christmas, and I'm sure.
She hasn't been on Sky once.
I'm sure she'll be on Sky
leader.
before long. I'm sure she'll be on Sky before long.
OK, I'm glad that she will be getting the message from you. Now, one of the things that I wanted to ask about was that Sky's boffins have verified that Reform's membership numbers are legitimate. Is your leader going to apologise to Nigel Farage for falsely accusing him of lying?
I don't think so. But if we look at some of the facts, they're very...
They're very... Would that be a decent thing to do?
Well, look, I mean, she obviously had information that she based her comments on. But let me talk about...
Shouldn't she just say, I'm sorry, I was misled?
Let me just be clear about some of the most important facts. The most important facts are, since the general election, there have been, I think, 175 council by-elections. We have won 7 times more of those than Reform. We've won about 50. They've only won, I think, 7. We're winning seats from Labour.
Yeah, okay.
Labour are losing seats to us.
Yeah,
Reform...
I get that, but you are glossing over the fact that she directly accused another party leader of lying. Wouldn't it be gracious of her to say, it has been brought to my attention that I was wrong, I may have had bad information, I may have made a mistake, I would like to apologise. That would be new politics, wouldn't it?
Well, look, I don't know what information she had. I don't know what information your boffins have looked at as you very kindly...
we looked at their numbers, we looked at their computer code.
Would they like to be called boffins? Look, so I haven't seen any of that. So, look, I'm not going to offer an opinion one way or the other because I haven't seen the evidence.
All right, let's talk about one of your other leading figures. Yesterday, the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, said the following. To sustain order in a multicultural Britain, the state considered it necessary to apply the law selectively. For decades, the most appalling crimes from predominantly British-Pakistani men were legalised and actively covered up to prevent disorder. He's talking about the grooming gang scandal. Most of this will have taken place under a Conservative government. Do you agree with him that your government covered up the scandal?
I don't think the government covered up the scandal, but I think there were individual local authorities who did. They were mostly, by the way, Labour-controlled local authorities in places like Oldham. We saw Simon Danchuk, a former Labour MP, the former Labour MP for Rochdale, say that the then chair of the Labour Party told him to not raise this issue because it might cost the Labour Party votes in the Muslim community. And we've seen examples of individual police forces not investigating very serious reports of criminal activity, the gang rape of young girls, for the same, because they were worried about community tensions. All of that was completely wrong, morally bankrupt. Now, there have been some inquiries so far. There was the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse that reported about 2 years ago, which covered this issue in part. But we need to go further. We need to completely expose the awful truth about this scandal. And that is why, Trevor, we need a national, comprehensive, statutory public inquiry covering this with the ability to summon witnesses, give evidence under oath to get to the truth.
You're in favour of a national inquiry, I get that. But do you go along with Mr Jenrick's language, for example? He says in his statement that we have been, he doesn't use the word overwhelmed, but he implies by, quote, alien cultures, by which he means Muslims. Is that the sort of language that the Kemi Badenoch Conservative Party is using now?
Well, I think you said yourself, you just paraphrased him rather than...
No, he uses the term alien cultures. Is that Conservative Party language now?
Well, let me tell you what is our language now. Our language is to stand up...
I'm asking you, is what Jenrick said the kind of language that you would use about British Muslims?
Look, he'll choose his words, I'll choose mine. I haven't used those words. What I am going to do, and what Kemi Badenoch will do, and all Conservatives, including Robert, will do, is stand up for these vulnerable young girls who are gang raped in an organised, systemic way over years or decades. The perpetrators were mainly of Pakistani heritage, and local councils, the police, possibly even the CPS, failed those girls by not investigating, in some cases by actively covering up. Simon Danchuk, the former Labour MP, has said that he was instructed by the chair of the Labour Party to not raise these issues because the Labour Party were worried about the electoral implications. This is morally bankrupt, it is totally wrong, and the truth must be exposed.
So Mr Jenrick is freelancing, in a sense, rather in the spirit of Mr Elon Musk.
No, I didn't say it was freelancing. I just said we've chosen different language, and that's absolutely fine. We're different people, we can use different words.
Chris Philp, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you.